Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing another video in my one palette series. This is where I take one color palette and I make a few different cards. I generally use the Spellbinders kits of the month, and that's what I'm doing today. So these are the September 2023 kits of the month from Spellbinders. I have the Glimmer, the large die, the die, and the embossing folder of the month. So this is a look at the Glimmer set. It is this beautiful kind of sunflower design. I love that it has that edge die included. This is the die of the month, and it features this adorable hiking boot as well as some fall elements. So you can use it with or without the boot, but there's some great little elements in there. And then same for this. This is the large die of the month. Look at how many dies are included in this set. It features a cupcake, but also some different fall and Halloween imagery that you can mix and match together to make this as spooky or as cute or as spooky cute as you want. So I love this die set because it can be used year round. And then finally, I have the embossing folder of the month. Now, this is the regular embossing folder, not the 3D embossing folder. Now, when I looked at these, I knew I wanted to bring in a fall color palette. And so I have this palette here, which features a few neutrals that you'll see at the bottom, as well as Grapefruit, Coral Reef, Tuscan, and Artichoke cardstocks. So I also have the Ivory, the Dune, and the Timber cardstocks here. Now, this may appear pink here on the top, but it is not. It is actually a peachy orange. It's called Grapefruit. I brought in this pink color to show you that it's not pink. So I just wanted to show you that this is actually just a lighter orange. So I have a couple of oranges here, a yellow, a green, and then some neutrals. Now, when I chose this color palette, I wanted something that was fall, but wasn't over the top with the maroons and the dark, deep colors. I still wanted it to have kind of that Carissa feel. And so that's where I kind of chose the colors. I wanted like a golden yellow, and I wanted an orange, and I wanted a green because there's a lot of greenery in these various die sets. But I kind of wanted to keep it on that feminine side. So this has me feeling all the pumpkin spice vibes. Now, when I choose a color palette, and you're going to see me start working on these cards here, I kind of let the products dictate some of the colors because I know that I'm going to need some greens for greenery, and I know I want some beautiful warm yellows to kind of bring in that warmth for fall. But I wouldn't try to bring some crazy colors in because my products really kind of dictate that. Now, it is fun to go all rogue and just bring in some wild colors and try to use it with some products. But when you're choosing a color palette, look at the products that you want to use and kind of allow yourself a little freedom in that. Now, I could have brought in a second green in this, and that would have been really beautiful as well to get some variation in the greens. I brought in 2 oranges instead. But if you wanted to bring in another green in the color palette, I think that would be a beautiful addition. So I started out by foiling the Glimmer of the Month foil plate using some blush foil onto some ivory cardstock. So you saw me do that process there. I'm also using the sentiment that's included in the Glimmer of the Month set, and I'm die cutting that with the coordinating die. It says, "I'm truly grateful," and I love that sentiment because you can use it year round. And then I have die cut the edge of this floral scene or kind of edge with the edge die that's included. And I'm just going to trim over to the edge of my cardstock. I used a piece of cardstock that was a little bit larger than I needed on purpose. Now, originally, when I started creating with this, I thought I'll leave the glimmer portion as it is, and I'll just create a colorful background. So I started by blending some inks onto an ivory cardstock. And this is where I kind of just grab inks that kind of coordinate with the cardstock colors I chose. Now, a lot of times when I'm building a color palette, I will either start with my inks and grab cardstocks that coordinate, or I will grab cardstocks and then grab inks that coordinate. So here I started with the cardstocks, and then I just grabbed the inks that were closest to it. It kind of might depend how you build your color palette on what you have more of. So you may want to start with your cardstocks if you have a large variety of cardstocks, or you may want to start with your inks if you have a larger variety of inks. So I blended 3 colors onto this panel. I used Grapefruit, Sorbet, and Stardust inks, all from Concord and Ninth. And then I decided I did want to add some color to this floral scene. So I have this really mini little angled ink blending brush here. And I'm taking the colors that I used in the background, so Stardust and Grapefruit, and then I will bring in some Artichoke as well. And I'm just adding a little bit of color to this foiled image. I'm not trying to color the entire thing in. I'm just adding color to areas. So I started with the Stardust towards the center of the leaves of the flowers or the petals of the flowers, and then I added a little Grapefruit at the outer edge of those petals. And now I'm using the Artichoke to color in some of the open leaves on this design. Now, once again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not trying to make a perfect blend on these. I'm just trying to get some color in. And if you're not comfortable doing this with ink blending, keep in mind, you could always bring in some water-based markers or some watercolors or some colored pencils to add a little bit of shading to your design as well. So it doesn't have to be just inks. You can use other coloring mediums in your stash as well. Now, once I have all the color added, I finished off with a little bit of nutmeg ink in the center of those sunflowers. I am going to use a strip of the Artichoke cardstock right on this floral kind of scene here. I've added that on, and then I added my little sentiment there right on top with a little foam adhesive. And then I'm going to add a layer of vellum directly behind the sunflower image. This is going to kind of just soften the background. I'll take this entire thing. I've added some foam adhesive to the back of the vellum layer. And then I'm adding that on top of a piece of Grapefruit cardstock to kind of just give me a warm fall sunset feel, which is what I was going for with the blended panel, but I wasn't feeling it, you know? But I will use that. Now I finished this off by adding that to a white card base and then adding a few sparkling clear sequins. And now we're going to move on to our second card. Now our second card features the Die of the Month kit from Spellbinders. And I'm going to start with the dies that I know what they are. So sometimes you're looking at a die and you're like, I don't know what that is. 2 suggestions. Number 1, start with what you know and put those onto the colors of cardstock that you know you want to use. And then also go to the website and look up the product images, and that will oftentimes help you determine what pieces are what. So I'm not perfect. I had to pull up the website and kind of look to help me figure out what layers go where. And once I got them all die cut out, I'm going to start assembling them. So I have the base of the boot, which includes that kind of that top rim and the bottom tread of the boot. And I'm layering on this colored portion. Now keep in mind, you could do this without the Grapefruit colored cardstock. I just kind of wanted this to lean more towards that feminine feel. And I have to tell you that when I started putting this together, it totally just made me think of someone in my church who loves to hike, and I think I'm going to give her this card because I just couldn't stop thinking about her when I was putting all these boots together. So I have my little detail pieces on the side that are cut from the Dune cardstock, and then I have my laces. And I'm just showing you how I put this together because I thought this might be helpful for you to see one of these boots kind of come together. Now, keep in mind, there's not really a wrong way to do this. You can go with what you feel. And part of these pieces, I did kind of just go with what I felt. So I started with the kind of crisscross of the laces at the bottom, that larger X at the top of my boot. I'm adding the little free hanging lace pieces. And then there's this one little arched piece. And quite honestly, I couldn't really figure out where it went, but I thought it looked really good across the base of the laces. And so that's where I put it. Now I put 2 of these boots together. And then I moved on to the leaves. Now, I love this piece of greenery because you can use it as it is, or you can layer up a second color of green cardstock on top to add a little bit of different shading to your greenery pieces. But I will tell you that once I figured out that the pointy part of the leaf actually goes towards the stem of this greenery piece, that really got me moving. So it's kind of counterintuitive because it feels like the pointy part should be out, but the pointy part on this actually faces towards the stem. And once I got that figured out, that came together really quickly. So now that I have my pieces put together, I added my berries to the little berry sprigs. I have a panel of ivory cardstock, and I'm going to use the embossing folder to add a little bit of texture to this. Now, in the end, you can't see this a great deal because I have a lot of die cut pieces on top of it, but I do love to add a little bit of texture to panels, especially focal panels on my cards when they're die cut like this. Now, I will mention that I used the A2 layering dies from Spellbinders for several of these little panels that I have die cut today for my card fronts. And those are super helpful for me. I love them because there's so many sizes in that set, and it can just get you that right ratio for an A2 size card. Now, one of the examples I saw on the website actually had one of the boots angled, and so that's what I did on my card. And then I added just some greenery around it. Keep in mind, you can do as little or as much of these greenery and fall foliage pieces as you want. I die cut several, so I used them all just to kind of fill this card out. But you can use these boots by themselves. You can use the foliage pieces by themselves. You'll notice that I foiled and die cut a sentiment. This is from one of Yana's collections. I foiled that in some blush cardstock and placed that on top just so that it says hello. And then I'm going to add this panel using some foam adhesive onto a card base that I created with some Artichoke cardstock. I did tuck a few sparkling clear sequins in there just to kind of grab your eye with a little bit of sparkle, and that finishes off my second card. Now, the third card involves a lot of die cutting as well because it's that cupcake set that I love so much. And this is actually a die that I'm foiling with here. So it's meant to kind of press the sentiment into the cardstock and then you can die cut it. But here I have foiled it using some blush cardstock, and then I'm going to use the coordinating die to die cut around that. I think it's a fun way to use these kind of pressed sentiments that Spellbinders does. And you can see I have all of my cupcake pieces here. Now, oftentimes when I die cut them out, I will kind of do what I call a dry fit of all of my cardstock or die cut pieces so that I know where I'm putting everything before I actually add the glue on top. Once I kind of get everything figured out, I'll start using liquid glue, adhering it on the back side of my die cuts and stacking things up. Now, for the cupcake base, you can use the base without the detail piece, or you can stack them up together. You can do them in two tones. I've done them in one tone here. You can see once I stack those up, I'm going to layer this onto the muffin or the cupcake base. And then I'm going to add some drippy chocolate frosting. Really what I was going for with this cupcake is like the pumpkin spice vibes of, have you ever had the Starbucks pumpkin cream cheese muffin? I mean, don't get me started, but that's what I was kind of going for here. Now, fun fact, I actually do not like chocolate, and I know that that's weird, but there are a lot of people who do like chocolate, and so I went ahead and put chocolate on my muffin here. And then let's be real here. What is a pumpkin spice muffin or a pumpkin cream cheese muffin without a big old dollop of cream cheese frosting on the top? So I have that all finished off there. I added a few little detail pieces to the base and the top of my cupcake. And then I die cut this ink blended panel that I created earlier with one of those A2 layering dies. And I'm going to place my cupcake right on top of that panel with some foam adhesive. I'm going to add a little bit of twine. This has a little bit of gold kind of running through it. And I'll tie that around the base of my cupcake. That just felt very fall-like to me. And then I'll take this entire panel, add it onto my card base using some foam adhesive again. Yes, I like a lot of dimension, okay? And I finished off the frosting with some Stickles glitter glue and added a few sparkling clear sequins to this card as well. And there you have it. One palette, one color palette, 3 cards with a fun pumpkin spice vibe. I love looking at these cards because you can see how the color palette really changes depending on the ratio of each color that you use in each project. I love playing with color in this way. It is so much fun to see how different products inspire you to use different ratios of the color. It's fun to see how you can bring in inks or cardstocks or other coloring mediums to kind of fill out your color palette when you need different techniques. And I always have such a good time creating this one palette series, and I hope it has inspired you as well. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. Over there, you're gonna find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. And keep in mind, these kits of the month are available for the month only. The sign-up period is open now, so if you're interested in getting your hands on these, you're gonna wanna head on over to Spellbinders and grab them up real quick. And you can cancel these at any time. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. Once again, I just want to thank you for hanging out with me. I'm so glad you're here. Let me know in the comments below which of these 3 cards is your favorite. I'll see you soon, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.